I find today everyone is a little fidgety. We're always trying to build things in the way we see other people. If you see businesses that have been built by entrepreneurs that have really scaled, it's what you see is what you get. And that sincerity makes an incredible amount of difference. So I would urge everyone, just drop your shackles. Because if you're sincere, you'll come across sincere to a consumer. You'll come across sincerely to your team. You'll come across sincerely to your advisors. The whole ecosystem will take you for what it is. Loneliness is good. It gives you quiet time. It allows you to introspect. It allows you to do so many things. I don't think loneliness is a scary thing.
He doesn't need any introduction. We all know. But what I want to say is that I respect him for two reasons. One is that he's built fundamentally real businesses, which I think today in our country we need entrepreneurs like this, we need to celebrate, talk more, because in the last few years we have been celebrating different kinds of businesses, and he's built really scalable businesses and category creators. They are, and I'm sure you guys know. And second thing which I really like, because with his surname Screwvala, I thought the Bihari in me thought he must be a very rich man, right? Like he must be born rich because he's Ronnie Screwvala. It sounds so English and all that.
It got me a lot of dates when I was young. There's no better icebreaker than a surname. There's no question about that. And my young nephew once was asked by the CEO of TCS on their school picnic that, "Hello, son, what's your good name?" So he said, "My good name is Screwvala. My good name is Khuzan. My bad name is Screwvala."
And but what I got to know is that when he was your age and very, very young, from that age, a middle class, self-made guy, and he started giving back to society. He started an NGO. We think that we'll become 50, 60, 40s, and then we'll start an NGO. He started very, very early in his career, which to me, in the history of whatever tracking I have done of businesses, this is very rare. This is very new. And Ronnie, I think we need to call that out about you. So thank you so much for coming from Mumbai to here at TechSparks. And my first question to you is, we are getting...
Coming from Mumbai to Bangalore is not a big deal. Coming from Bangalore airport to here is the big deal. So you need to thank me from coming from Bangalore airport, not from Mumbai.
Okay, fine. I will also laugh at this. So the question is that, we've been getting a lot of advice and input, and we have a lot in our head. But what, according to you, are some non-negotiables when you go on to build a business?
For me, and I think I would say some of the mantras there would be definitely, we need to stay the course. I don't think most people are ready to stay the course. Nothing is happening in a hurry. And I think the fidgetiness. So what is that? I think you just have to build yourself to stay the course. And I think the younger you are, the more mature you'll have to get as far as that is concerned. I think I came from a lower middle class background. I came with a certain level, but I matured myself very fast because I was just hit on the head with failures after failures after failures. So if you're not ready if you have a plan B, you're dead. Genuinely, that's for an MBA student. In entrepreneurship, you have a plan B, you're dead most of the time. And I think, therefore, staying the course would be one. I think the second one is, I've seen that, and I think we spoke about that a little earlier. I find today everyone is a little fidgety. We're always trying to build things in the way we see other people. I would urge everyone, you've got to stay stoic to your own vision. 90% of the time, we're fidgety about trying to figure out, how will this be perceived? What do you think? What do you think? We're always asking people's opinions. Businesses, anything successful, a great idea is not built in consensus, and it's never built with 40 different people's views. So I would say, cut that crap, stop getting fidgety, get yourself ready for the long run. You have to stay the course, and it has to be your vision. If it's not your vision, I think you're in trouble. Now, we can get to the other non-negotiables about what today goes on, about governance and cleanliness, but that's an evolved thought. I think that's basic housekeeping. So to that, I wouldn't say governance and whatever else. I think the third one is sincerity. If you see businesses that have been built by entrepreneurs that have really scaled, it's what you see is what you get. And that sincerity makes an incredible amount of difference. So I would urge everyone, just drop your shackles. Because if you're sincere, you'll come across sincere to a consumer. You'll come across sincerely to your team. You'll come across sincerely to your advisors. The whole ecosystem will take you for what it is. Because pitching and putting yourself in a place where you're not what you are is a 6-month process. It's a 9-month process. It's a 1-year process. And then you see through it, because you'll also feel burnt out by being in constant pitching mode. So I think these would be 3 broad, and there are many of them, but
I have this question. You said that, and I agree that don't keep listening to everyone's advice, because I think the more I listen, the bigger mistakes I did. But as entrepreneurs, we become very lonely, insecure, and sometimes we don't know. So we say that, okay, let's go, and we find big guys, successful guys and unicorns and all that, and we think they'll answer. How do you believe more and more in yourself when you don't have those success metrics surrounding you?
Loneliness is good.
Very good.
Loneliness is not bad. Loneliness is good.
Okay, we can clap to that.
Yeah.
All the lonely people building business.
Loneliness is good. It gives you quiet time. It allows you to introspect. It allows you to do so many things. I don't think loneliness is a scary thing. Loneliness gives you a great thought process. Why do you go up to the mountains to just be alone? Why do you do 10 days of Vipassana to introspect? Because actually that gives you your best thought processes from everything that you do. And I think we should not be scared about loneliness. It's a strong virtue. Even as you go forward in a day, you need that 1 hour of alone time, because that's your most productive time in a day. So I think this context that says, oh, I need to grapple, and of course it is. I'm not saying therefore completely isolate yourself, but loneliness is not bad.
Yeah. And that builds your own inner conviction when you are alone. Yeah. Ronnie, I want to ask you that you built, and then maybe, quickly for the context, I'm sure there are a lot of very young entrepreneurs also here. You built very solid, fundamentally solid category creator sort of businesses in India from your learning and problems that you would have faced. I want you to tell us, how do you approach challenges and how do you look at problem solving those challenges?
Yeah, I think it's each one to their own. And there's no gyan for this kind of situation. I think nothing is built in calm waters. If you build something in calm waters, chances are it's going to sink anytime one little wave comes about. So life is about waves. And I think you have to just be part of the waves. Imagine trying to surf or nobody's going to give you tailwind in a calm sea. So if you want tailwind, you need to have experienced headwind. You need to experience choppy seas. So I think if you don't look at each of those challenges as a learning ground and you're getting beleaguered with it, that's a huge problem. The bad part is you'll have 80 challenges from which you learn and 20 failures. But that's where your best learning will be. So I think this context that says, how do I deal with challenges? I think that is the learning. The minute you switch on 2-3 things, I think one is just look at it a little bit more long term. Because I think most of us, again, get fidgety that this is a problem, I need to act on it. Sometimes not acting is a really smart move. It's a really smart move. Not acting on it, not responding. You'll be surprised at how many people you'll keep guessing around the room or in life by you not acting on things. And there's a power there. There's a power on not acting, because the minute you're reactive, everyone knows you. The minute you're not reactive, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is a good thing in leadership.
You tell us, what has been 1 or 2 of your biggest failures? Or
They're yet to come. They're yet to come.
That you told.
They have to be yet to come, because the biggest ones I obviously would have surmounted. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here, right? So I guess they weren't as big. At that moment, they will seem unsurmountable. At some times, they'll see, because most people look at missed opportunities as a big failure. And I think that also is a flaw. Because if you catch 5 good opportunities and 45 get missed, I think we spend disproportionate time on the regret on the 45 missed opportunities than on the 5 that we missed. Because actually, you're remembered for 3 or 4 big things. You're not going to be remembered for 45 little things, because if you remember 45 little things, you're not going to be remembered. And I'm not talking about remembered as in on your tombstone and what do you want to be left at as a legacy. The impact you'll make is on the big things. So let's go find the big things that we need to do and not stop worrying about the small things.
Yeah. I want to ask you about this benchmark. Today, all said and done, we do benchmark with each other and with entrepreneurs who've raised a lot of funding. Yesterday, there was someone who's raised seed round of $20 million.
You're putting benchmark with raising funding?
वो भी तो है ना? क्यों नहीं?
वो भी तो है is fine, but वो है is problem.
Of course, है. दिल पे लगता है that yesterday someone raised seed funding of $20 million.
So the expectancy for that seed run will be they'll expect a forest very soon, not one tree.
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up for an incredible amount of expectation. So I would not congratulate the person. I would empathize with this person who raised $30 million in a seed round.
That's why we really, really love you. Just keep talking, because it is a balm also, and it's happiness also, and it's fun also.
Unless you're planning to then skip and go somewhere else with that 30 million, I think it's very, very onerous.
But we do look up to unicorns. We celebrate unicorns.
How many of you all look up to unicorns?
अभी तो कोई नहीं हाथ उठाएगा. अच्छा, 2 उठा भी.
How many of you all look up to unicorns?
Unicorn founders.
4 of them, 5 of them, 6.
But they're slowly
7 of
picking
them.
up.
By the way, it's not a competition. I'm just saying. Why would we look up to a unicorn? I just want to tell you, when you start at a certain level and you benchmark yourself with this unicorn context, then your next step is even more. And then by the time you actually get to the real building a serious business and get yourself valued, you put so much pressure on yourself and your team. It's a great thing to say you got valued at that, but the pressure you put on your colleagues and your team, because after that, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of going forward. So I would just say for people, we're building a serious business. You're going to be rewarded for being the last man standing. You're going to be rewarded for staying the course. You're going to be rewarded for, I'm going to outlast most people. I don't have the statistics right now, but the first 100 unicorns that happened during the COVID time, whatever, I'd say that 25 of them today who had to be revalued with a primary round would be unicorns. 75 are demoted. Demoted. Not demotivated, but demoted. So if you look at that, why would you look up to a unicorn?
But it's very important that you're calling this out, because this has been the story. In the last few years, this has been...
But that's nothing to yearn about. I'm trying to explain to you, every time you feel good about that, please understand that it's too onerous. And if you don't, you're going to take that pressure on yourself. You're going to take the pressure on your 20 people or 200 people or 2,000 people. And then it'll start actually be a law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Just go out and build the business you way you want to. The final outcome will come 5 years, 7 years, 8 years on a long-term basis.
I think we are all feeling good on a Friday night.
When you're 5 and 6, you light the birthday candles and you have a birthday party. By the time you're 15, you have a different birthday party. By the time you're 25, you have a different birthday party. By the time you're 45, you don't have a birthday party.
Ronnie, to everyone, and most of the entrepreneurs people here today are looking at opportunities, looking at growing their businesses, scaling, and looking at, listening to a lot of leaders, meeting people. What would you say, 1 or 2 things from your own journey that is critical to stay the course?
Yeah, I think you raised a very relevant point about scaling, and I think it is important. It's very tough. This whole 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 myths is like this unicorn terminology. I mean, I don't know whether you're always good at 0 to 1 and therefore you'll never be good at 1 to 10. And even in the 1 to 10 now, it's to be broken up into 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, because life has got very complicated. Businesses have got very complicated. So I don't think people are there for 2 to 10 anymore. You have to actually kind of break them up. But I mean, my input there really would be, when you want to kind of stay the course, I think the scale part is very, very important, especially in a country like India. If you're building a business, anything you have to do, you can only be if you can be at scale. And look, I've seen a lot of people with a lot of passion. They've left high-paid jobs, successful in their own way, found their new purpose in life. and realigned themselves and said, I want to do something on my own for the right reasons. But to get that scale, even when you're running that business, is very, very tricky and important. And you're only going to unlock value for that. So I think for a lot of people, you need to understand that if you moved your purpose, you're doing it because of your own self-satisfaction. And then everyone is looking at scale, because the damn problem is the media forces you to look at those 10 isolated cases, 5 of which turn accidental unicorns because they're in the right place, the right time. And 5 people listed and got to a different value. And then all you're looking at is these 10 people. And then the pressure to get to there is not that easy, because scaling a business is very difficult.
Yeah.
It is very, very difficult. It requires a lot of resilience and a lot of patience. The worst thing you can do while you're scaling your business is to burn a lot of money. Because the recipe is, at some stage, you will have to burn less money. And then your scale will come down. And I don't think that people get. And that's why I'm saying we shouldn't celebrate unicorns. Because that means you got a lot of, into inverted commas, free money at a value that was a little bit beyond what it should have been. Now you want to go out and spend it. And then the growth story will come down, because that spending ratio to scale ratio is not going to happen. So I can't overemphasize the fact that it's a very, very tricky business to scale, which is why you need the patience to build something really serious. The narratives that come about, in my opinion, unfortunately, are not that serious. And somebody's built it and then they've got a valuation and the two don't tally. That whole myth has to be shattered. And I would urge everyone here, just go out there, believe in your own self-conviction, take your time, but build the business that you really want to build. And scale is not easy. Prepare your team for what you want to do it meticulously. That doesn't mean you won't get it. You'll get a good break and then there'll be a sudden surge, and then the main point is not to drop. The main point is not just set yourself up where it starts dropping, because that's when you start losing your confidence.
It takes a lot of time. And the other thing which I worry about and think about and feel very complexed about sometimes is that this is 15 years of TechSpark. One has been doing it for 15 years. And then you say someone comes and does everything in 15 months or 15 days. How do you deal with that? That someone becomes so successful in such a short span of time. And some of us give so many.
So define successful, meaning you've got a history of 15 years. What have they done in 15 days that you think will last the next 15 years for them is the question you need to ask.
Wow.
And if some of them have done it, astounding.
Now I'm feeling good also.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we ask the first part of our question and then we get lost by asking not the full question in the thought process. There is a value for which you've done what you've done. If somebody can do it in 15 days, fantastic. But the fact of the matter is, now let's see for the next 15 years how they'll double this act, triple this act, quadruple this act. Because actually, they've done it impetuously in some. And I'm not standing judgment. Maybe you will always find that one people who will come in there and just with good fortune happen to be in the right place, the right time.
Yeah.
The big challenge to them will be, it'll be a situation where it'll be difficult for them to, not having run the waves, the challenges, and got to there. They're going to face it afterwards, what you've already faced. So it's a balance. I think you always look at the grass on the other side. It's never greener on the other side.
2 years back, at this very place, we were celebrating EdTech, and we had Byju's and a lot of entrepreneurs and, great valuations, a lot of companies in the EdTech space. You are the founder of upGrad. I want to understand from you what is happening to EdTech right now. Because today we don't have EdTech.
I'm not getting it. 2 years. So is this a condolence meeting or? I don't want to partake in a condolence meeting. I'm not very good at condolence messages for people who don't know how to run their business.
Like you. Continue.
People who don't know how to run their businesses, I'm not good at condolence messages.
You're the founder of upGrad. Last man standing, maybe?
That we'll see. There's still a long time. Last man standing, you'll see after a long period of time. Look, I think when I exited the media business in 2012, everyone said I'd abandoned that thought process and they called me a serial entrepreneur. I just want to tell you that there were 700 entrepreneurs that started in media in the 1990s and went forward. And I think I was one of the last 15 that stuck it out all that time to be able to unwrap. So I don't, people miss that context of last man standing, because that's really when the value came in. And the multiplier effect could have happened just in 3 years. Yeah. What took 16 years would have been 1/3 the value at 13 years, but could be 3 times the value at 16. So that's the element of timing and the value of, well, timing is important and sticking the course is important. But to go back to your, though I wanted to just make a point and make a harsh but funny point, how can the context of learning, skilling not be relevant? This is 1.3 billion people. Even the government today on its third electoral manifesto realized that jobs, skilling is absolutely the way they're going to be able to be past 2029 and going forward. So it's a very development-based agenda. I think the hyperbole right now, everyone feels this is a consumer, nothing's going to stop India. Well, the spirit is willing and nothing will stop India, but please don't assume that the consumer demand is just going to happen. You know, just because you run a 20 crore business and everyone's going India for the next 10 years, don't expect that 20 crore business to be a 2,000 crore business on auto mode because India is going to have, the consumer demand is going to go up. It's not. It's a very diverse country. So similarly here, I think that momentum that is needed for job understanding, for some of the consumer understanding that we need to do for upskilling is just massive. So again, you had a few unicorns or a few people who raised money and could not make it to the finishing line. That does not mean a sector gets tainted. And I've said this before. I mean, the airline industry has had failures. People are still flying Indigo. They still feel it's a great organization. So nobody's asking the Indigo guy just because Jet and Kingfisher happened, what's the future of the airline industry? In fact, the future of the airline industry is good. In the banking industry, you've had the similar stuff. You had a Yes Bank. Nobody's asking and questioning about that. So if you had one rotten apple in the K-12 space, why would the whole massive learning, skilling part be under question under any circumstances?
Don't ask me. All the investors are today not investing, no?
Sorry, all the?
Investors are not looking at tech.
They shouldn't be because they had no business to be there in the first place. No, absolutely. In a homicide where they say culpable by being part of the whole process, yeah, I think in that particular case, all the investors were equally culpable. But it's okay. See, I think the big challenge today for this is that if it's a business failure, it's very acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the speaker before that, and I think you mentioned that, the first and most important graceful thing is to accept. If you don't accept you have a problem, you're not going to be able to solve it. So that's a case where there's no acceptance by anybody that there was a problem. 3 years back, if the acceptance happened, we wouldn't be in the state it was in right now. That's the cumulative destruction of value. As much as timing of 3 years can change and change your value up, 3 years of non-acceptance can diminish your value to, I can't even say zero now because you'll have to dig 200 feet down because now it's underwater.
We're talking about AI. I want to ask you, because you've also worn the hat of an investor also, what are some of the technologies, what are some of the things that you are betting on? What do you think are the big opportunities?
No, I think the big opportunity is a lot. AI today, we have to make a business of it. And I think for the next 4 or 5 years, it's going to be a work in progress for a lot of people. I would say the first 20, 30 companies will struggle. This is a sector in which being second or third is absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned. And if I was looking at with colleagues, I would say either you plan for the long term or it's okay if you're second or third. Second one is everyone's looking at this as a tectonic or a technological shift. I think we're losing the fact that there's so much creativity, so much of innovation, so much of consumer understanding that will have to go into that versus just this output. So the whole means to the end, to me, I'm looking for people who are on that journey for the means to what AI can do than anything else. And I think that those are really where you build a very 360-degree company for the long term. Otherwise, you look at things and want to feel, it's moving so fast, I have to move fast. Actually, and I raised this example this morning where Vishwanath Anand, who's a chess champion and was launching our chess league yesterday, and we were asking about some moves. And he says, the best thing you need to do about chess between moves is put your hands beneath this thing. Because the first thing you want to do is you've got these 18 options and you want to act. And the best chess moves they need to take 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to think about it. And frankly, yeah, When you're building a business, you are making moves. You are making choices. And if you make them in a reactive mode, it's very different. So I would say there are lots of opportunities. The only other thing I would say is, look, we're a very entitled lot, all of us here. We're in the privileged segment and we're looking at things that we think is about tech and whatever else. But there's so much being built here at the very basic level in India. Okay, the small and medium scale industries, and they're not small and medium scale industries. I've lived through this because I started building a toothbrush manufacturing business. And at that time, it was in the small scale industry segment. And everyone said, it's very boring. It was boring. Compared to media, it was always very boring. But at that particular point, to scale that was an impossible task. And everyone said, it's a regulatory environment. And then one fine day I said, either I have to get out of this or I have to scale. And then I looked at it and said, if I built a plant in each state, captive for a manufacturer, and suddenly the whole thing get to scale. Otherwise, everyone, if I'd said I was going to manufacture 4.8 million toothbrushes a month at that particular point in time, it was a pipe dream. So I think you find your crevice and your niche. Today, what people are doing in serious businesses, solar energy, the whole environmental part, these are serious businesses for the long term that people are building, and they need equal amount of respect.
Talk about Swades Foundation, and as an entrepreneur, because there are a lot of social entrepreneurs also over here, because this is also important in a tech conference to talk about.
I'm not a social entrepreneur.
No, that I know.
No, but the reason I'm saying is that either I want to run a not-for-profit or I'll run a profit. I think this in-between doesn't work. And I've said this before again, so I'll repeat that because I think that's very important. Because a lot of people think, impact and making money should be clubbed together. Of course, it should be clubbed together, but you first need to figure out that both need to accelerate. This balance between impact and making money is a guilt complex, and it won't get you anywhere. Because in India, if you want to solve problems at scale, you need the resources, you need the capital, you need the money. You don't need subsidies. If you got subsidies, you'll never be able to make that impact. So I think for me, the not-for-profit space was a good balance. It was a culture-setting moment for the organization because, the first time we got about it, and I think I started in my early 20s, was I clear why I was doing it? Not at all. But today, I think a lot of Gen Z, everyone's got this quota of giving back, of volunteering, of doing things. And I'm seeing that in a very... So I would urge people here that, a lot of the times we get so obsessed with what we're doing that suddenly we either burn out or we then question what's our purpose in life. And look, it may happen to different people at different stages in life. Maybe after 10 cathartic failures, you feel, what's my purpose in life? Or you and I have been having a conversation 15 minutes back about reboot or purpose in life. And I'm saying this gives you that balance. So I think I was very fortunate that it happened when it happened, and it gave me a constant balance in life. Because if you're having that, and then if you're going to sitting down in the rural villages and understanding their problems there is no way you can come back with a swagger or get excited about being a unicorn or getting excited about, I know exactly and have all the answers to everything else, because you don't. Because the minute you know how the other half lives, it just is a leveling process for you. So it's been an incredible balancing for me that I was fortunate enough to launch at a stage where I was still on borrowed money. There was no venture capital at that time, and still have a social not-for-profit, which later we called the Swades Foundation, named after one of our movies that we did where Shah Rukh Khan comes back from NASA and his boss tells him, go light your bulb, literally speaking, and he comes to his Nanima and wants to get water in his village, right? And that moment happened because there were 4 students from Columbia that sat on our veranda at home, and my wife Zarina and I were having a conversation, and they were going to see our village and visit them for 2 days for a project report. And we just said there's a very Swades moment at that stage, and that's how we just called Shah Rukh and Ashutosh Gavarekar and said, we want to call our foundation Swades, and that's how that went to the next level.
I forget that you are also the mover and shaker and the guy in the film industry also. Yeah, suddenly I remembered with Sadiq.
No, but I think that has been I think there I learned going against the grain. Because when you're an outsider in any sector, and I think a lot of people feel we need to be insiders, and that's what it is. I think sometimes being the outsider actually gives you a lot more elbow room to think and innovate and do things. So I think in the media industry, I was an outsider, specifically, not in broadcasting, but definitely in the movie industry, because you're not to the manner born. So there's nothing incestuous. Nobody's going to give you a break. And that allows you to objectively look at things in a very different manner. So when we finally made movies like Rang De Basanti or Swades or Lakshya at that time, and then Jodha Akbar or a Wednesday or a Barfi, it just gives you... I mean, that to me, that storytelling today resonates in everything that I do in education and skilling and learning at upGrad. It actually does, because education and learning is about that. You'll remember your college life with your 2 professors. You remember your school life from the 2 teachers who really molded you in that thought process, right? So, and I think that's part of leadership today for entrepreneurs also. You've got to be able to inspire people, because people are coming to work for you. They're coming to work for you. They're coming to grow. They're coming to get inspired. So you need, whether we like it or not, you don't need to be the best elocution. You don't need to be the best and eloquent person, but you need to inspire.
You know, something that we don't talk about in India, but it goes in the minds of, be it if you're 20, 30, 40, 50 or whatever, is money. Entrepreneurship one does for many reasons, but one of them is also money, to make money. And the relationship we have and many people I meet, like you brought this, that impact bhi kar dein, scale bhi kar dein. Somehow we don't talk about making money and our relationship with money. I want to understand from you, someone who was a middle class, lower middle class, comes from that background. Today you made so much of money. How to look at this relationship with money?
No, I think it's very respectful. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having an objective to make money. I think that is to be respected in that context, right? I mean, there's always this context where somebody says, oh, I don't think anything about money. That's because the other person says, that's because you have it, right? So I think there's nothing wrong with that. Anything that's your North Star should get you going. And I think that's very important. It's not that I don't think people talk about it. I mean, valuation is a swagger for a lot of people, right? Yes. Valuation is a chest-thumping moment. But actually, to me, it's on the liability side of your balance sheet, not your asset.
Yeah.
So I think it depends. If you think it's on your asset side of the balance sheet, wait a couple of years, it's going to move to the liability side. Because you'll have to pay back.
What are the challenges that the edtech sector would face in the next 5 to 10 years? Because we've seen fall of Byju's and many other companies.
The example of the company that you gave there, I don't take names, is not about a problem with the sector or a problem on execution. It's a problem of excessive funding raised in a sector that doesn't need that much funding, and then we don't know where it went from there. So please look at analogies of a sector. And I think I repeated here on what the impact is. There's incredible amount of work to be done in the world in the element of skilling, even formal education. Today, our GRE ratios are 20-25%, right? That means 75% of the people going to the workforce don't get a normal degree. Just now in our online courses, when we have 36,000 students taking undergrad degrees, 80% of them are working professionals. You would think they're coming from the K-12 sector, but they're not, because they're people who've gotten to jobs for socioeconomic reasons and now need to get there. So this sector is absolutely in good hands, in safe hands. The challenges are, how do I get the sense of urgency with everyone in this room and everywhere else that you'll have to keep upgrading yourself after 4 to 5 years? The challenge today is about getting all of y'all to turn to be teachers. I mean, and again, I've said this many times and I'll repeat that. Singapore and many other countries in the world make you go 1 year mandatory in the army. And that changes you as a person. I think in India, you need to do 2 things. You need to, 3 months, everyone needs to spend in rural India instead of anything else. And for the next 9 months, be a teacher and a trainer and give back and mentor 3 more people. It'll change your life.
So, sir, I went through your Instagram bio, which read, a jack of all trades is oftentimes better than a master of none. I believe you're an exception for whom being a jack of all trades worked out for the better, like you're in sports, entertainment, edtech, even social work, etc. An average man still today aspires to be a master of one. So my question to you is, what are the challenges or the advantages of being a jack of all, and how do you contribute enough time for each sector that you work in?
So the good part or bad part about Instagram is you don't write your own CV. Somebody else puts it out there for you. And so I totally agree with you. There are no good parts about being a jack of all trades. And I think I'll have to work back and look at my Instagram. I don't log on to it that often. And I bloody well have to change it somehow or the other. And I would not recommend jack of all trades. In fact, if I had the ability to introspect and go back in time, I think if I'd learned some lessons on focus and how to really think big on fewer and fewer things and less for more, that's what I think I would have done slightly differently in my last 30 years.
We run a mental health company called the Mind and Company. My question is very simple to you. You're one of the few people who could answer. Can money buy peace and happiness?
No. I mean, look, there is no categorical no, but you know what I'm saying when it's no, because in the net sense of real peace and real happiness, no.
So it doesn't depend on money.
But can it buy some peace and some happiness? Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
I fell in love with your book, Dream with Your Eyes Open. I mean, I cried when it reflected my first startup journey, and I have gifted it to my son now. So I'm Ashish. I'm running my second startup, Make My Garden. You mentioned about the highs and lows in any entrepreneurial journey. So with now years of experience, can you tell us how to predict some of the lows, how to prevent, and once you get into those lows, how to come back out of it quickly?
So the first part is no, I can't predict, because there's no such thing. If I could predict them, then there wouldn't be lows in that sense. So, and you shouldn't be able to predict them, right? Because astrologers don't get wealthy in life. Great entrepreneurs do.
Right.
So I think that's very important to understand that. But I think for me, the lows have been, again, I think it was part of my background and my build-up. I came from a low middle class family. My expectations were very low. My sense of entitlement in life in my 40 years of working career have been low. Have always been low. That I don't feel that the next day I need to feel entitled, or just because I did this and I got this, I now will get this, or I do deserve this, or why is this not happening to me? And if you keep your entitlement low, you keep your self-confidence at the highest, but you keep your entitlement at the lowest, that's what gets you through. And I think my abyss moments is where I've recalibrated, and I think I've said that in my book also, that, how do you start thinking of what's my worst case scenario? And if you can handle that worst case scenario, that moment is past. It's like if you're stranded and marooned in a rowboat in a thunderstorm, what's your worst case scenario? You're going to die. If you can acclimatize that for 4 minutes, then you'll be life of pi.
I run a company called Mypreneur. We help people to start food businesses. So my question is do you see a need for more entrepreneurs to create more entrepreneurs? Like offering coaching, mentorship?
Yes, always. I think it's our obligation. It's not a need. I think it's our obligation. If we think we've gotten into somewhere, spreading the good word and giving that sense of encouragement is always nice. Don't offer too many opinions, because your opinion may be different from the other person's opinion. But absolutely, I think, why not? Why are we all here? Why am I here? Why are we sharing here? Why is Shraddha here? Why are we all sitting here and sharing today? Because we feel it is part of the process where we need to share some of our experiences and be extremely candid. The problem is, half the time is sharing experiences, but we're posturing and we're trying to create an impression versus just telling you as it is.
Hi sir, I'm Kirtana. I'm 20-year-old and I run a publishing firm called The Writing Arena and a content rating agency called upGrad. I have one simple question. So when I see the world of startups, I could see two sets of startups. The one is that there are people who have hustled all through corporate and they take a break in entrepreneurship. And the other set is that once after graduation, they find a problem and they build it from scratch. So is it fine to, find a problem statement after college and sit in entrepreneurship and hire someone who is very good, who has hustled all through their corporate life just to match their experience, or get some experience and come back to startup?
See, I'm not qualified to answer that question, because it's really each one to their own. I think it's almost impossible. It's fine with both the situations that you've said, but it's fine with another 40 such situations. It's also fine at 40 to decide I'm done with this part of my life and I want to have another North Star. There are many, many things that you would do that. So if you have your self-conviction, you should go for it. If you have doubt, don't go for it, whatever stage, whatever age. Because if you can't get rid of the doubt, you won't be able to get rid of the problems, challenges, and failures.
Can I request everyone to please stand up, because Ronnie Screwvala deserves a standing ovation from all of us. It was such an honor, such a privilege, and you are so amazing. Yes, thank you.